So, an absolute thrill for me, I'm going to stay close to the mic, an absolute thrill for me to be here. I'll just launch into it. There's kind of two parts to this. The first part is relatively straightforward. The second part, you guys do all the work. Okay? That's the hope. And I've got some unusual friends I would like to introduce you to as we go along the way. Okay. So, as anyone who has clicked their heels or stroked their fire's nose, there is no place like home. And Neil Ain Tinton nor the Hinton Fain is an old Irish proverb I heard in my youth, asserting that there is no fireside like your own fireside. There is indeed no place like home. I welcome you all here today to my virtual fireside. It is good to be among friends, and it might be a game of two halves. Although my own actual fireside is 375 kilometres away, when I grew up in the shadow of the poet Patrick Kavanagh, a pastoral poet whom, in painting a picture of feelings in a moment in time and place in July, wrote, "The bicycles go by in twos and threes, there's a dance in Billy Brennan's barn tonight, and there's the half-talk code of mysteries, and the wink and elbow language of delight. 8:30, and there is not a spot upon a mile of road, no shadow thrown, that might turn out a man or woman, not a football tapping secrecies of stone. I have what every poet hates in spite of all the solemn talk of contemplation. Oh, Alexander Selkirk knew the plight of being king and government and nation. A road, a mile of kingdom, I am king of banks and stones and every blooming thing." This poem, one of the first I heard as a poem, speaks to the isolation of the poet, to the lone creator, as observer, as outsider, but also as the Scots poet William Cowper, also writing about Alexander Selkirk, says, "The monarch of all I survey." It was Dennis O'Driscoll who has documented so well a fortuitous thing for Seamus Heaney to become friends with Paddy Kavanagh. Their half-talk code of mysteries and wink and elbow language of delight were my own adolescent social vernacular. Wasn't it as well that they met? Let those that have ears hear. Listen. Listen now again. For if you will, if you can. There is within me more than a simple passing of fond familiarity with much of what Seamus, professor, poet, Percival Heaney himself has sought to say and write in his works and in his texts, in what he has done and what he has failed to do. And I ask you, my assembled heroines and heroes of electronic literature, to hear no longer what remains of gaps of mind, sequestered social spaces, liminal leaps without fate, prior vacant or vacated defining dimensions, theories of lingering or lost generations. The past is that eaten meal that we as digital artists have all too soon forgotten. Do please recognise now this gift, a present shared moment in July, the healthy living mystery of our nourishing assembly. Our shared reality, a chance for something new, novelty to allow us to slow down our lives, slowly live freely and fully, also to each of us, knowing friends and family elsewhere, and now present absence. At play here today, unfound yet foundational for UCC, Cork and Ireland, what Gerard Manley Hopkins might have mystically termed grandeur. And the critic, Neil Corcoran, to those voices sometimes coming out of nowhere in a radicalisation and revision of the ancient poetic trope of prosopopea, which a poet, even a digital one doing English, knows can mean personification of inanimate things. or a figure of speech in which an imaginary absent or deceased person is represented as speaking or acting. Yes? That's right. Yes, there is today such a rare opportunity not to listen to our own voices nor the voices of the dead, but instead hear worldwide wondrous wide words of those absent, living, distant friends. As I, as multitudes subsumed, seek to preach the proposal potential of our present porosity. Mark Maguire tells us when the American writer Professor John Bart was first invited to speak at the Iowa Writers' Conference, he welcomed the opportunity to at last preach what he had practiced. I have, for the last number of years, been a bit of a mystic Mickey, preaching the originality of ELO, praising the potential of our field, evangelizing the global electronic literature community here in Ireland, worshipping a broad church abroad, and advocating unshot for artists and authors, proclaiming their productivities, their insights, their voices, their intermingled minds. Let those who have ears hear the potential of electronic literature in Ireland, although stirred, lies latent until today. Kerry Ferguson, documentary master of remix making, reminds us that Steve Jobs was fond of quoting Picasso's statement, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal." Technological disruption begets remix culture. File sharing, peer-to-peer theft of ideas. Today I could personally preach to you, the converted, about such mixed remediations, the potential to eulogize and evangelize the mixability of multiple postmodernisms, perhaps pre-extinction ideas, within our Joycean, Yeatsian, Beckettian, Bernard Shawish, Singwise, Flanabrianization, O'Casified, Paddy Bloom and Kavanagh, residing in our living language, our common living language, already reared and layered long before its Eastification by Irish authorship. Potentially freed and released as we are now from purely linear form, we, artists, poets, makers, shakers, analytics fakers, already stole a march in a borrowed language. We claim to have created a literature, an adjacent longitude of laureates, laughing heartily with our own private friends at our very expensive literary jokes. So here is one of my friends. This is Pauline, my pink pig of pessimistic posterity. She joins me here today to doubt the wisdom of doing a keynote speech in this manner. While she obviously respects the requirement for erudite scholarship and insightful or aesthetic amelioration, she herself insists that she personifies the persistence of the imaginative capacity of our child within. She has agreed to come out and play. Isn't that right, Pauline? Yeah. Okay then, let's forget about being original for a minute and just get back to stealing. Okay, now, in some previous works and papers I've spoken about these thefts. I created Bob Cassio, where the administrator of Digitalk Digital Fiction Competition steals the bank of 10 ideas of 10 of his students who entered and combines those 10 ideas into one winning entry. In Promise, the Annals of the Four Webmasters, I wrote about my own radio DJ history in an autobiographical Rashomon effect, made in Flash with several technical constraints. Camel text was my first attempt to develop a signification strategy showing subtext on the surface. It was less technical than Mez's Mengele's. It was an attempt to trap the sacred in camel text. A Sufi-style surfing of my own invented language. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Amen. I was going to say no, but I can see one. Okay, Time to bring out the big guns. This is Rory. Dr. Rory the Rabbit of Creative Restraint Release. He confidently advised me against turning this keynote into a history of my personal electronic experiments. There he is there. Restraints are something that we all work with. Constraints, something that we work within. Acknowledged or not, like it or not, I once made an attempt at ludic poetry. Yes, yes. I made an attempt at ludic poetry. I made an attempt at plays, wordplay, playing, play on. Play as part of contemporary cultural constraints and restraints. We as a society now enthusiastically embrace play, embrace these restraints, perhaps because they actually liberate our imaginations and offer us entry to that sacred circle. We embrace constraint. We embrace constraint. So, I know, Pauline, I can't hog this entire keynote, but I have briefly presented some of my of these original works elsewhere in the community, so I'll do some more of them again in detail some other time. Actually, on Wednesday, on panel 13, over in the Food Sciences building at 1:30, where Dean Stewart and I will traverse digital vitalism. Now, as every creator of digital literature knows, we make choices. We decide what goes in and what stays out, what comes here and what stays there. We determine that porosity, what travels between, the danger of one idea. Here are 16 lines, ideas, statements. What wants to be John Patt's manifesto that didn't make it into the 70,000 words of his digital vitalism. His vocabulary of utterance, silenced by restraint. The danger of too many ideas from one individual. And here's just some of them. Break stuff and fail. Experiment with life as much as with technologies. Seek out practitioners. Use more than hyperlinks to fork that story. Electricity is as dangerous as ego. Screen is a verb and a noun. A digital writer's head should rest each night in only one place. Live without fear as sisters and brothers. Erskatakela awaran nadina. It is in the shelter of others that we survive. When Elmsip remediated the social, my own experience was that, although not institutionally connected, but still going along for the crack and the company and the critical creativity and the chat, we as an emerging field, as a creative network, as a community of practice, have not only survived, but flourished. We grew. We became part more than the sum of those earlier collective parts, techniques and generations. What came out of that, what went into that, the porosity, brought prosperity to our field. Serge Bouchard, as previously discussed, Leo Flores proposed topology of digital literature, featuring 3 generations of authors and works. He bases his findings concerning the first 2 generations on the work of Catherine Hills. The first generation, from 1950 to 1995, corresponds to pre-web experimentation with electronic and digital media. A second generation, 1995 to the present, engenders innovative works created with custom interfaces and forms. Leo then distinguishes a third generation, emerging in 2005, which uses established interfaces with massive user bases. Having made games and works in all 3 of these eras, I offer now my own myopic, human-centric interpretation for a future generation. mindful that using Venn diagrams can cause some unattended consequences. This keynote actually proposes a more situated, perhaps ethnographic view of personal experiences of electronic literature through the medium of collaborative community authorship. That our collective experiences in this networked era have become more important than our only individual interventions into this broader discourse. Inspired by the work of Serge, Leo, and Annie Abrahams, framed by that grandfather of hypertext, Michael Joyce, his theoretical works, his theoretical narratives, his original ideas about theoretical narratives, such as the works I have sought to create in the past as didactic instruments in themselves, I believe this keynote is a performative conduit, codifying a collective creativity that constitutes community through a collaborative, combinatory work. I only turned up for the English lesson on alliteration. A network value exchange, a multi-headed hermeneutic, where we as a community, through our social media, our agency, within this room, mindful of our absent friends, and as we can, will now co-create a second half of this particular keynote. So, what I'm going to do, if I may, these are 12 options that we have. The second half of the keynote is whatever it is you want it to be. We'll pick 12, or we'll pick 8 of these, and from these 8, we'll have the second half of the keynote. Okay? So, there is a function to Pauline. So whoever catches this, if you could just pick a number. How about number 5, Jeremy Hyde? Yes. How about number 5, Jeremy Hyde? Are you? Jeremy, pick.
Number 13, print failure.
I more stuff.
Number 2.
Number 2. Hold on, David. Yeah, warning. Sorry about that. Should have done the warning first. David, sorry.
16, John Pat.
16, John Pat. Okay. Anyone, it's all over there.
Let's throw it on the screen whenever he hits the number that it will be.
Now, these are really cool. Look. Cool but dangerous. So, I'm just going to just throw them to the front.
Number 9.
Oh yeah, sorry, I meant to do that. Yeah, you.
Number 3.
Number 3. I've only one left. I think. You can give that to your dog because the screen is. can see, we put the keynote. I'm just going to read through some of this if that's okay. Now the other thing too is that you can, when I originally did this, I originally did it as a work of Keynote. Because if you remember that little Venn diagram I showed, it was about work, it was about theory, and it was about creators. So these are all of the creators who would love to have been here, and one of them is here. She made it at the end. Claire, thank you for coming. And I said to them, look, you're actually letting me talk to the assembled electronic literature organisation. Can you believe it? They're letting me loose and letting me talk. And I said, well, I prefer, because I actually have a traversal of my work that Deanie and Stuart are kind enough to do, and John and David. I'd like to give you the keynote for anything you'd like to say, or what you would like to say to the electronic literature community in terms of what electronic literature means to you as someone from outside, and this is where the porosity bit comes in obviously, bringing it into our keynote. So, Jeremy, whom we all know and love, I presume, he said, electronic literature honestly saved my life. I was, as a kid, studied philosophy, meteorology, ethnology, writing, and anything on science and nature I could get my hands on. I was tested in 3rd grade and moved to a school that had NASA visits and gave us space ice cream, a treasure of treasures, and Voyager photos. We were little calculators given mass amounts of data and mostly memorization tasks. My parents got a call when I got a B in 5th grade. It led to boredom and tuning out, and eventually burnout in 9th grade to the highest degree. A teacher in honours English even snuck me out to Burger King at lunch to give me a pep talk as she felt bad watching this tall, shy kid evaporate and fail. High school saw Matt hit me on the head at 100 miles an hour, and a PhD in experimental meteorology software development became possible. I still loved words and writing, and a teacher jumped out like a bat after graduation from a shadowy bush to tell me, keep writing, thank you, and won some teen awards, but still felt it was all incomplete. In college, I had ideas for poems made of soil types and deserts and by rivers to be projected on fog, to be novels composed of seeming junks in drawers and old furniture. After my MA in writing at CalArts, it seemed for a time that all was to be echoes, to be encased and calcified in forms and functions. It was massively depressing and deflating, to be honest. Then a friend called, and we made a GPS-driven narrative. It hit me first that text could skin the world with signal. It then became clear that much more importantly, technology and creativity could give place a voice. Since then, I have worked in anti-blogs, Ars Poetics, laid out the semantics based on location and elevation, netprops, poetry edited by earthquakes, and now artificial intelligence infused prose and poetry that reacts to how it is read and grows or shrinks, and has a bit of sentience. If I had to attempt a specific definition, it would be a fog of words but basically writing made possible, and permutations of textuality made possible by technology. For me, it is hope. Print alone does not protect you. We protect each other. This record is straight. That poet, renowned Joycean scholar, my friend and fellow Irish electronic literature community member, wrote the first great study of Irish living poet Paul Durcan. We call him a living legend. And if you've ever read his poem about 8 Spansive Hills, it's a poem where he lived here in Cork when his marriage broke down. It's in his collection, the Berlin Wall Cafe. Fantastic poem. Paul Durcan. So, some other academic printed the kernel of that book, called it its own, bound it in a book, and claimed collaboration. Where else can truth lie but in the reality of fiction? When Blake's greatest ambition was to create copies where no original was found, All great artists steal, but not from me. Dr. Claire Fitch, Tale of a Great Friend. When I asked my long-term friend and highly creative Claire Fitch, also a founding member of the Irish electronic literature community, to provide me with just one single line that explained her relationship with electronic literature, she offered, working using text, sound and images in the digital sphere provides the opportunity to focus on creating both the representational and the abstract. Electronic literature provides the possibility to explore. I accepted readily that Claire's observation speaks to her lifetime of experimental encounters with mediated with instruments and technologies. And Claire, you were on just before here, weren't you? And I'm sure you enjoyed Tale of the Sham. It is a wonderful twist of fate that Claire is in this room today as she presented her Rector's talk earlier. Perhaps porosity in practice. John Pat McNamara. What's left out is often the best part. Aren't you asking me late now? So why not ask yourself, is our code of conduct about the conduct of our code? That's all that's needed. You've already had my 16 things you wouldn't let me say until now. I have lived under your bed for 5 years. Isn't it about time you woke up to yourself? Our friendship lives lively still, and more remains. I don't know whether you're aware or not, but John Pat McNamara is a living human being who lives on Achill Island. He has never written a line of poetry in his life. And he's had 4 professors at his door so far, asking him about his work, Digital Vitals. Mez Breeze, the mesmerising Mez, our friend down under we can't get over, who told me the term electronic literature is like a glorious gift wrap, almost shouldn't have Freudian-esque booby-trapped box. To me, it's all shine and gold ribbon dust, with the correct amount of coherent lingo bling and academic label glitter, while underneath is that old pull towards codification, to definitions, tugging towards canons, suckling into the unknown. And as most of you either know or have guessed, I don't do so well with the known. Since 1994, when first starting to create electronic literature, there was no proper descriptor for what I did or how I did it. And even now, there still isn't. Don't get me wrong, I have and continue to push my constantly evolving creative output into this gilded, ELIT labelled box. I'm also continuously humbled and amazed by those and what lies crouching there too in that box, especially like yourself, that bask in wrenched peripheral corners, in halls of mirrors like literary echoing, where strange and bulbous creations dwell, with creators who don't quite fit or gel within the codified. To you who resist the lure of the identifiable, the known, who are content to squat with me in these corners in this box, in and through the interstitial underside of the shiny bling, I say thanks. You can join Mez and see her new works on our Patreon account, while also listening to Dr. Anita McKeown. Artist, academic, maker, friend of mine from the UCD Smart Lab. She said, words have a magical quality to take up the power and intention that we give them. I grew up in a culture where saying where you lived was rightly or wrongly one of the most political things that you could say. That simple answer to where are you from positioned you beyond your own thoughts and feelings, beyond what you might be saying. Because of this, I am in awe of words and use this quality in my writing. I love composition. Words, one aspect of my artistic practice, are components, like notes in a score, composing 4-dimensional realities that are fluid. They are visual, sonic, spatial, temporal, simultaneously. I compose them in an attempt to create a shared place, expressive of where I am at, or their visual and sonic qualities sequenced across time to an actual place, although I'm aware it is a constructed place and not accurately representative. Words transmitted through code, like notes in a score, are compositions of four-dimensional realities. They are fluid. And Anita agrees in part with Sandy. Distant digital author, remote. So ELIT means community, means a group of thinkers and artists and writers and quirky people and drinkers who really share little, and almost every single one I talked to in the beginning would say, I don't know why I'm here, I don't do ELIT. So it was a community of refugees in a way. No one belonging, but everyone finding a common shelter. In that sense, it was simply appreciation of each other and their individual works. All those singular sui generis works. But then it also is an institution, focused on defining the thing and naming the thing, archiving the thing, delineating it from other things that are not ELIT. Those are good things, but they are not what ELIT means to me. This is about politics, about ownership, about proximity and distance. It's about politics. The first are heterogeneous, drifting, refugee, as I call it. The second, Moloch, centralized. And I say, somewhere it may be noted that freedom is a muscle we hope we can all exercise. Outside the ELO, the late hometown pianist, Jimmy Mackin, of a very famous band called Paragon 7, once summed it up well. Jimmy, after a glittering career as an international star, having played in Carnegie Hall and elsewhere, played one night, half-cut, in an empty bar. I was saddened to see that sight, and asked him how he felt. He looked at me and offered, "They are staying away in their thousands." They will no longer stay away with rationale. Barriers to entry fall. And anyone, anywhere, can teach anything to anyone. Is it any wonder that there is little wonder left, but all that was said? So I'm just going to finish up. We could have got a really long one there. Out of that, that was relatively short. Flann O'Brien, Miles Goppelin, Irish author, on Bail Book, wrote the book on Bail Book in 1941, a very rich satire of the struggle to learn Irish and be Irish and understand the traditions of Irish and the traditions of Irish literature. I'm sure many of you have read his At Swim, Two Birds, or The Third Policeman. This was his book that he'd written in Irish. And, you know, one of the aspects of that was that the poem out, what it reflected was, to make the poem out is to beg it out. So if you make a poem out, you beg it. A poem out is a mouth that is without words. It has the incorrect language to be understood. You know, so our ideas of poets in Ireland somehow came, an Irish poet, a poet of the Irish language, came from this idea of unveiled book, which became rich, rich satire. Because the phrase that we hear many times over is, we will never see their likes again. But we will. As evidenced by this particular photograph. This, had we had the chance to read some of his works, etc., is Dr. Conor Farman, also a member of the Irish Electronic Literature Organisation. Conor is a poet, an essayist, and this is Paul Durcan, his friend. Paul represents the print tradition that has been highly successful. He has taken Conor under his wing, and they are very, very good friends, and he moves the tradition on. So it is the legend and the pupil. It is a promise. It's a promise of posterity. And all of those things that we didn't get to see. Because there was 12, you only picked 8. It could have been 16. It could have been 20. things, as carpenters call them, those offcuts. Those offcuts, those pieces that you don't use to make the work. This is a work made with offcuts. And sometimes the things that we don't say, the things that we don't write, are the most important of all. And I leave you to speculate as to what I would have said. But, you know, so that's